Yeah. I went through my Twitter timeline. I can just. Fuck. Hold on. I can't log into Blue Sky for some reason. 21. That. Okay, look, I'll just post it upload on my phone. It's probably smarter. Okay, I'm reading episode 5. I think I posted episode 4, but um oh, that's nice art. But before we read this, I'm gonna play like a round of Magic the Gathering too, as per usual. Just to make sure everything's working. I'm just go with my Rakdos burn. I do hope they add the draw land for because they put in like some Boros like card land that you can sacrifice to draw a card, but there's no Rakdos counterpart in MTG yet, so I'm just hoping they add it eventually because I think it would just be more convenient because sometimes the auto tapper is really stupid because it sees that it pings me for one, goes like you don't want to tap that. It fucks me up. I'll keep. That's a pretty good hand. 3 lands, plenty of spells. I'll play this. Dragon's Rage Channeler. If I play Steel Cutter, I'm wondering if I play Steel Cutter first, because then if I play 2 spells the next turn, or okay, maybe we just put down Dreadhorde Arcanist, because then we can cast Gory Steel Cutter next turn, and then place the things after, and then maybe we can swing the Dreadhorde Arcanist before they ramp enough to kill it, have anything to kill it. I'm assuming this is Wooburg or something. It could just be could be red green. I cannot tell right now. I'll cast this. Kill the Trailblazer. I think I'm gonna replace whatever the lightning card was. I think the reason everything has in the original deck. I think the idea is that when you have enough mana, you can kick it to pay 4. But I'm kind of thinking play with fire might just be more flexible. Even though it can't kill bigger targets, kind of feeling like it's more generally useful. Karn can't kill me. I think I might be able to kill them this turn if I play my cards right. Because I can cast Sphere Teaching into Dragon's Rage Channeler and do this, which activates Prowess on like 3 of my things. It might just kill it. Sure, I guess I'll keep that. I shouldn't have kept that. I should look for a land. Fuck. Okay. Whatever. I think we still win here, though. Yep. That's basically how this deck wants to run. That's like the perfect situation. You just kill them before they can do anything. Although how well it will go this time, I cannot say. I'm kind of conflicted because on one hand, Molten Collapse seems like a decent thing to put in to kill Karn, but we killed him pretty quickly. On the other, maybe put in 1. But like, is it worth putting in only 1 Molten Collapse? I don't know. Maybe we cut Wither's Lightning. Hmm. I don't know. I guess we'll just leave 1 in there. It's probably stupid. We might I don't see the point putting 1 card because you have a low chance of hitting it. But on the off chance we draw it and there's a Karn that we haven't killed. If we don't kill him as quickly this round, then I think we commit to swapping it out for something that can deal with Planeswalkers. I think it's a smart thing to do. I might kill that just. I mean, that is mana ramp. I'm not sure. Okay, this might be dumb. I'm just gonna try to kill it because I don't want them to ramp if possible. If I have the choice, if I have to say in the matter. The only problem is if we don't draw something good, we cannot probably any to skew the critics. Because ideally, I'd hit for 1 and then it would activate Spectral Cost. That's something. I think we try to save as much mana as possible because we want to cast Ball Wave, and then if we can basically cast like several Skewer the Critics at once, if given the chance. Okay, well, we'll Surveil. Don't need Barbarian Ring. Bolt Wave. I'll just do this now because I want to kill that Trailblazer, and also we can at least cast a Skewer the Critics. We can at least cast 2 next turn, I guess, because we drop a Mountain. Make sure my audio is working. I think it was. Bolt Wave. I'll just do this now because I want. The audio is working. Mountain. You. Followed by you. Only problem is we couldn't surveil with Rakoa's Theater. I'm thinking maybe we put more creature. I think we just lucked out the first time. There spells like great. Rakua's Theater. Bump in the night. We need like something bigger. Lures the Dream Den. We can cast another Swift Teaching. None of this is good. Swift Teaching. What do you even want from me, man? Barbarian. I don't have anything to res. Why was there lightning in my deck? Oh, fuck. I think I put the wrong card when I was like messing around with it. Okay, whatever. Kill you. I guess now at least we know what to cut on the bright side. Doesn't look like they have anything in their hand, really, so... I don't really know what to do with Lures the Dream Den here, because they might just kill it, but if I swing, it does basically... I mean, it gives me 3 health, and then maybe I should just swing. Okay, well, we won that. So I'm gonna switch... That Wizard Lightning was not supposed to be here, because I don't think we have... I think we only have 1 Wizard in this entire deck. That was supposed to be a... different card. Those Burst Lightning was supposed to be in there. So I'm running 2 Burst Lightning and 2 Play with Fire. This is just like nice because I can hit for face and scry, and then Burst Lightning if you need to, you can kick it for 4 to pay 5 to deal 4 damage instead. I just found myself not spending 5 mana to cast Burst Lightning. It just really seems worth it. That's why I was thinking about cutting it completely. Because I don't know, this deck is like really aggressive. So like usually I win quickly anyway, and when I don't win quickly, it's never Burst Lightning that I feel is like, oh, thank God I got Burst Lightning for kicker 4. It's usually something, I usually have like Skewer the Critics or something going off that finishes them off. So, anyway, let's read some Magic the Gathering story. So, Edge of Eternities, the Weft Hunter. Kale Station was silent in the way of long abandoned places. I don't think we've heard of Kale Station. I think it's just like a place that's being introduced. Trying it today. Oh, great maintenance. Everything will run out of like convenient like little like titles for each of their sets. Like they're gonna be like, oh, we use EOE, so we're gonna have to use like E to 7th power 26 for this set. Anyway, oh, here's Exosuit Savior. So they're talking about like an exosuit shooting missiles or something. This seems like an exosuit. And a silly one saved me just like this. I aspire to live up to the example every day. Also, someone made a comment in the last video, I believe. If you could take me out of studio, please. It was Silas Jones again. So the Hawking subnote is trying to explain why it's called Hawking Radiation, and in this universe, oh, okay, that makes way more sense. Because I was like, that seems kind of like a stretch. I'm pretty sure it's just named after a guy, but also making reference to a Squadron Hawks card. I mean, that's cute. Definitely, again, there's nerds in chat. They genetically changed. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense because everyone seemed like knights are a very big deal beyond just like wearing armor. I don't know how to describe it. It's like Aphrael seemed like in shock to have killed a pallet a Squadron Hawk. Aphrael seemed so Squadron Hawk enters your battlefield. You may search your library for up to 3 cards named Squadron Hawk, reveal them, put them in your hand, then shuffle. What a weird card. I mean, not that weird, but it's just I've never seen anyone playing it, so it's a weird card to reference. But I'm sure there's some format where it's really good. But it's just weird because it seemed like everyone was making a very big deal of killing a Palatinate Knight. Like it was like, holy shit, you killed a Knight. Like this is not something that just anyone does. So also considering how much brain trauma we just saw in the last episode, it also makes sense that maybe their brain is upgraded to be a little tougher. Gale Station was silent in the way of long abandoned places. The silence of the void had a different, more vibrant texture, a waiting, wanting thing. The moment gone, Steam Ripper parted space, cutting a radiant blue line from the void into the station's debris. So I assume the Steam Rippers like their staffs, like that we see the Drixit like these. Do we see them using? We know they can web walk, but maybe it helps or something. And a radiant blue line from the void into the station's debris strewn arcade. He felt the charge, to change. He stepped through quickly, hurrying through the last words of the weft walking ritual. They had carried him between worlds as he closed the cup behind him. He never been into Kale, but he'd seen a dozen of stations exactly like it, down to the layout of the empty arcade and the oval windows looking out over an aimless quasar. This is the first time we got one of the Drix. The Drix seem to be kind of like in every color. I think we've had a Drix in every color. Also, I think Drix is a new creature type too. Like they're their own creature type. Please. They're in every color but blue, and I don't know if that's supposed to say they aren't blue Drix, like generally, but it kind of, I assume they're kind of just in every color. It's just we didn't get a blue one set. Procedure excel 1 target non-assassin creature. Also interesting getting a white assassin. I'm not sure we've gotten a ton of those. Like I'm sure they exist, but when I think the color like white and Magic, I don't think, oh yeah, the assassin color. I think like black and like red for that and stuff. I guess there's more white assassins than I thought. I guess to be fair, they're kind of all white, really. Maybe I'm just wrong. I mean, there's like a couple mono white ones, but I guess most of them are. Anyway, I mean, hold on. Let's compare to how many black assassins there are, though. Yeah, there's a way more black assassins just comparatively. So see, they're in every color but blue, but I'm wondering how much of that is just because the blue slot got filled by something else. Like I'm pretty sure it feels like weird to just have them in 4 colors and then not blue, because especially since Magic hasn't really touched on 4 color stuff a ton as far as like factions and creature types go. Like there's the Nephilim, but usually it's kind of lean towards 3 colors, kind of like not that there aren't any 4 color cards whatsoever, but just like in a broader like, oh yeah, this creature type is specifically 4 colors. It's usually just like, oh, elves are green mostly. Artificer, Warlock, Artificer, Wizard. So try to get like also mechanical. Like they all have warp. That's like the only mechanical vibe I kind of get for them, which is fair, because there's only like a couple of them. So when more come out, it'll be interesting to see what kind of mechanical identity they have, if any. His footsteps echoed as he edged past the detritus that littered the floor. Broken luggage, scattered boxes, bones. Clearly, scavengers had visited in the 20 years since the station's evacuation, but the wrongness that pervaded the musty, unstirred air had nothing to do with petty theft. Ancient instincts, relics of the days when the Drix first made their way out into the Lamile and discovered a universe at war, screamed at Gon to flee. Unlike many of the peoples that populated the worlds between the walls, the Drix remembered the walls of the Quiet Wall and the Chaos Wall, so it's like the known universe. The Drix remembered the Eldrazi in the war that had brought all of reality to the brink of destruction. So there's clearly something interesting going on. I don't know exactly what happened yet because I haven't gotten far. Maybe they'll explain it more, but it's just the Eldrazi have been to this plane, which makes me wonder why the plane isn't just dead at this point. The Eldrazi have been here. Why did the Eldrazi leave? I guess is what I'm asking. It could just be because we know that the edge is at the edge of the multiverse, so that has something to do with it. So like maybe the Eldrazi was kind of just passing through in some weird way. But yeah, and God had more reason than most Drix to loathe Eldrazi. He shoved spite and instinct aside. A Weft Hunter was here for a reason, and it wasn't to flee at the first whiff of chaos. Are any of these guys called Weft Hunters? Weft Blade, All Fates, Time Hunter, Weft Stalker. I mean, I think it probably is mentioned somewhere. I was here for a reason. It wasn't to flee at the first with the chaos. The instinct of flight had outlived its original use, but he repurposed it and let it guide his steps deeper into the station. Below the arcade and a dilapidated docking bay, a fresh hole yawned in the station's wall, sharp edges still faintly warm from whatever energy had ripped through. And I could tell that this damage wasn't from 20 years ago. But Gunn also made out a second wound overlaid on the first, not in the infrastructure of the station, but in the weft itself. So once again, the weft is giving a lot of like, not just like yeah, chaos, warp, 40k vibes, but also like a lot of the force vibes, like, oh, it's a disturbance in the force. Like not only was this place physically destroyed, but like the force, I heard 1,000 voices scream, the force is ripped asunder. It had scabbed over but not properly healed. No seam ripper opened a wound like that. But what then? It stank of Eldrazi corruption. Sorry, we're gonna get a good look at the. I mean, Eldrazi referenced to one of the previous side stories, but it'll be nice to get like an actual good look and perspective from an Eldrazi corruption as it's happening. It stank of Eldrazi corruption, and while Gon could conjure educated guesses as to how such a thing came to be, every hypothesis was equally useless if he lacked an answer to that most important question. What now? The wound itself was the source of his unease. What had made it was long gone. Sorothar would have known what to do. That thought re-invoked the urge for flight, a personal instinct, not one engraved in a species over centuries of fighting. So I guess he's differentiating between like his personal feelings and like general instinct. Gon raised the communicator in his wrist to his mouth and ignored its infuriating cheerful chirp as he activated it, threading a signal through the edge. Jadnus, it's me. He waited for the words to wend their way through the void. Jadnus, what was a consultant, and on assignment to the Pinnacle archives on Pelarife. So Pelarife sounds like a celestial body that we haven't seen yet. I don't know if it's a planet. It could be a station or something. I'm very interested to come back. I know it's like we just got the set, but I'm very interested to see what to see more of the plane if they ever decide to like explore like a commander set or just come back to the set eventually. Like I wouldn't complain. I guess like this is like honestly one of those sets that if they were like, oh, this is actually like a block with like 2 to 3 sets, I wouldn't complain. Although I understand why from a business perspective they don't do like blocks anymore. But as different a life to Gon's as someone could live and still be Drix. Gon, it's been weeks. Dravenus' words stumbled together, one blurring to the next. Are you? It seems stupid to ask if you're all right, so I won't. I need a favor. It often came in handy to know a Pinnacle archivist, and he didn't mind taking advantage of the fact. I'm at Kale Station looking at. I don't know what I'm looking at. A breach in the weft, not caused by a seam ripper. Can you search the station's records? Anything about a research into new methods of interstellar transit or, So yeah, we are aware. It was so explained in the guide. The Pinnacle does have some sort of alliance with the Drix, so the Drix do have some ulterior motive. Although that doesn't necessarily mean they're bad. Having ulterior motive isn't necessarily bad. It seems like you're trying to stop like some sort of corruption that maybe not everyone is privy to. I wonder if everyone's like aware of the Eldrazi because like as I mentioned previously, Sammy in the main story didn't seem aware that slivers were a thing. They specifically referred them specifically as fake, even though we have seen slivers in the set and like sliver pools and stuff. So I'm wondering if this is like one sort of like almost like chaos, like hidden battle, like the average pop person doesn't know about the Eldrazi, but like there's like this almost like secret organization, sci-fi organization fighting against like a secret enemy. Sounds like a big orb, but I'll check it out. Before Gon could thank her or ask her for a time estimate, she added, "In the meantime, you should head to Andal Stele. The damage you're describing, something similar happened there 2 days ago. Two people died. No local leads on the causative agent. On my way," Gon promised and broke the thread. No need to hope for an interstellar transport to pass through the system. Walking the weft was a Drix's birthright. He lifted his seam ripper and hummed a single note that resonated with the vibrations of its electric blue blade. I touched the weft part to let him step through into a higher lamella, so it's like a layer, out of the superstructure of reality. So I'm wondering, is the seam ripper like a requirement for weft walking, or does it just make it easier? Maybe, hold on. I'm not sure if this person's using a staff, but I also have to wonder, they say it's a birthright. Is it something that like Drix? Is it something that can you learn the weft walks and it's just that Drix are born with the ability to do so, or is it that you can't weft walk unless you're Drix? Like if weft walk, like if you're a human trying to just raw dog weft walk without any sort of ship, would you just like get ass blasted and destroyed? The last time God had come to Andal Stele, was Andal Stele the name of the space elevator, or is that? It is using that elevator, but it was only a waypoint on a long hunt that led him and Thor through the worst and weariest corners between the walls. What he saw when he cut his way into a stinking back alley mashed his memories. A maze of tram tracks and monorails, skyscrapers whose heights vanished into gray pink smog. This feels almost like a hive city. I'm not saying again. I'm swear to God, I'm not saying this is like, oh, it's just a one big 40K reference. It's all 40K. Like there are obviously just like general sci-fi tropes, and like more specific references to like Dune and Star Wars and stuff. But unlike before its core was close, that same sense of wrongness had preceded him here, stronger, more present than on Kale Station. He shifted his grip on his Steam Ripper. So I'm still wondering if Andalstay is a planet or just like a specific like city or something. He shifted his grip on a Steam Ripper so that it felt more like a weapon than a tool and left the alley. Down crowded streets, through public buildings were winding queues. Gon navigated with his own pulsating discomfort as a guide. Another thing hadn't changed in the last 10 years. People got out of this way of a Drix Hunter with purpose and a stride. I mean, that makes sense because you probably don't see it. It doesn't seem like you just run into Drix Hunter. That's not something you just run into. So I assume the reason people get out of the way is like if you see Drix Hunter, they're here to like put a stop to some weird like bullshit that could fuck you over if you get too close. Or they want something. Another thing hadn't changed in the last 10 years. People got out of the way of a Drix Hunter with purpose and a stride. Gon kept a wary eye out. If a Pinnacle enforcement agent saw him, they might interfere with the hunt of a local civilian, or worse, they might try to help him. I guess so. This is an interesting idea. Is that I guess there's like this idea of like I guess the Drix see everyone else is sort of like not really knowing what they're doing. Not in like the sense like they're like don't have a government or whatever, but like in the sense that like when it comes to WEF stuff, you want to ask the Drix about it. Like a human just kind of won't get it. So they kind of just want someone like, hey, I need this, please do it. I don't want a bunch of like questions or someone trying to like bumble their way through, like into the web trying to fix things. I think I've already talked about this art. I think it's a colorless card. It's colorless up here. No, it's a colorless creature. Yeah, Eternity Elevator. So this is actually the art they're using is from the Cav home planet that is dying. And here we have like I guess that's the wall that keeps like protecting from the rest of the planet breaking, and then leads up to like a more safe area. Once again, you just get a sense of scale because you can see the horizon. You just get a good sense of scale. A lot of white and blues to contrast like the darker red and rust, the like rusted colors of the planet. And this planet, I wouldn't be surprised if it takes like a bit of inspiration from Mars, just like a little bit, like the red planet with like its red coloration because of the rust. Also, you can literally see the planet flying off, like something's like pointing. Like, luckily, it kind of takes your like eye towards like the elevator itself if you follow it. But obviously, there's like a super void somewhere where it's all, well, not a super void, but it's breaking off as it flies through its orbit. And I mean, it's interesting because not only is there a massive scale, but like the elevator takes up most of the space. The way it's like, well, not all, but more than you would think, just because of the way it's framed. Like it's coming at you, and then it takes up like this entire like chunk of the art piece. It takes up even more in the card because obviously the card's more of a square. Like, so like you just see this. He pulled up short outside a fenced square, stacked with house-sizing shipping containers. A squat construction in the middle anchored a taut cable as thick as Gon was tall, which ran up into the clouds and disappeared. A space elevator, something inside it called out to Gon. So I think they're just using it to represent like a space elevator, and duty demanded that he answer. The Steam Ripper parted chain links as easily as it did reality. Gon ran his fingers over the cold metal of the shipping container after shipping container. Nothing chaos touched, slept within. See, again, this just feels like very Warhammer. Like, oh, has it been touched by the warp? Has it been touched by the grasp of chaos? So interesting. Again, I think it's just a reference. I'm not saying everything. Once again, I gotta stress, I think sometimes people get the idea, it's like, oh, it's all just a Warhammer reference. I'm not saying Warhammer is the only reference here. There's also like a comparison to like the Force, like, oh, this has been touched by the Force. This is like has a strong connection to the Force. But this also does give you very like almost like Inquisition vibes, like from 40K. Well, specifically the Ordo. I'm not sure if it makes sense to say the Order Malleus because the duty would deal with them, like specifically like an Inquisitor that maybe deals like with like chaos stuff. Maybe not specifically like demons, sure, but maybe specifically chaos, like to see like let's root out like, oh, has it been touched by chaos? Although obviously it's no less grim dark, so it doesn't seem like you get touched by chaos and you fall to corn or something. Where then? Tell me what to do, he said to a shipping container, and kicked it for good measure. Excuse me, if the tainted president hadn't already shredded his nerves, the voice wouldn't have startled him. He spun to find a human woman in a khaki green uniform, yellow gray hair, probably middle aged. Her badge read Kasori Umberland. Her sleeve insignia proclaimed her as a third-degree elevator loading technician. Authorized personnel only. Which is fair enough. So we do have the Drix art. I don't know what's opening. The sign. Decided to draft it. So yeah, here we have All Fate Stalker. It is a when this creature it is a Drix assassin for 3 generic, 1 white, 4 total. When this creature enters, exile up to 1 target non-assassin creature until it's in the battlefield. Warp. You may cast this card from your hand for its warp cost. Exile this creature at the beginning of your next step, and then you may cast it from your exile at an later turn. You again. So I assume they're just actually kind of interesting because they're the if there was a set to introduce a new creature type, it'd definitely be the sci-fi set, especially since the sci-fi is all about having like weird aliens. So if you definitely want to introduce like a new species, like to the Magic universe, it would be the sci-fi set. Especially if you want like a maybe like a play more exclusive creature type. It's interesting that it's assassin, but and it does kind of like a lot of assassins like I guess kind of like flash in. Like I don't know how many assassins have flash, but all assassins either have death touch or they have like flash. Menace, death touch. First strike, death touch. But I guess it's like this idea, even though it's not killing anything, like a lot of sets obviously want to kill stuff when you play them. Even though it's not killing anything, it does like kind of like flash in, and then what it does is it protects one of your creatures instead of killing something. Well, actually, no, it doesn't protect them. Well, I mean, it could protect them, but it exiles up to 1 target non-assassin creature. So basically, it gets another assassin and it traps it. So it's a pretty interesting take on an assassin in white, where it's not just like killing something with that touch or something, or flashing in. What it does is it's basically like moving in and capturing it for questioning or whatever. And also, all the Drix have warp because obviously they all have what to walk, so they can all warp. It is actually pretty interesting because you can basically blink something. I guess you can exile it for its warp cost, and then you can get boosting on the way for like a moment, so you can swing or whatever, and then it'll leave, and then you can cast it later. That's for the art itself. So interesting. There's a lot of blue and green, but we have seen like a lot of blue on this set, just for like Aether and stuff. I gotta make sure my night shift isn't off, so I can actually see the colors properly. So we see like a lot of blue, which is just something that we see a lot in the set. Usually represent like Aether, and surprisingly, this is a white card. But despite it is conveyed to white card by having like a lot of this white dress, but it also has like green and blue. Which, to be fair, it's interesting that it's white, green, and blue because those are the green and blue are the allied colors of white, even though the card itself is mono white. This head almost looks. I don't know if it's like supposed to be an ear on the side because this head almost looks lopsided. Not that it's a bad design choice. I'm just curious if that's like intentionally like they have like one thing pointing out one side of their head. Here we have this person, I guess, being sent to into the weft or something, or moved perhaps. Maybe that's what it represents, or maybe just being contained. And I said you again, so obviously I don't think this is like the same as what's happening in the actual story, but there's clearly some story going on in the card here. And once again, look how much this person's like bathed in the light to like capture their attention. Like this person has like a bit of light on them, but they're mostly almost like subsumed by this person's like glowing blue like magic, like it's like an overwhelming force. And here there's like a light shining on them, like they're the main focus. Like it's almost like a beacon of light. Very interesting, like sci-fi like alien design. Like it's like a sort of weird hood, but it's also like got like a bunch of holes in it. But it's not like quite just like fabric or yarn or something. It's like could be plastic or maybe some sort of weird organic material. Although this probably looks more like fabric, like weed fabric. And the surge of nausea that struck Gon meant she was the source of the contamination. Oh god, this again, just getting 40k vibes. Like, oh, they've been touched by chaos. Uh-oh. He pointed to Steam Ripper and hesitated. A weft hunter's ruthlessness was another weapon in his arsenal, but he destroyed enough proto beings before to see that this woman, her clear eyes and her workday wariness didn't fit the profile. What's a proto being? Is a proto being like a almost like a chaos entity, like a weft entity? I just want to talk. He would kill her afterwards if he had to, but if he didn't have to, like her fellow citizens, Kasori didn't miss the significance of the Seam Ripper. She stepped back, one hand darting to her pocket. No, she said, and bought it. Well, I mean, Gon launched himself after her, cursing the moment he'd wasted. He knew the layout. She knew the layout of the place. Again, this gave me like almost like Warhammer Inquisitor. Like I gotta make a sacrifice for the greater good. Like you may not like it, but sometimes you just gotta shoot a guy just to prevent the warp from spreading. Gon launched himself after her, cursing the moment he wasted. She knew the layout of this place, the crooks and corners, and entrances and exits. If he lost her, she'd have a chance to use whatever horrific curio she had in her possession. He whistled in short and sharp sound that insinuated itself between the oscillating buzz of a seam ripper rather than resonating with it, and sliced himself a path. So a second later, he dropped out of a shining slit in the air, a scant few meters in front of Kisori. She yelped and swerved left. Gon followed, already cutting. Sorathir had hated it when he microstepped like this. Risky, reckless. One day you'll miss time and I'll lose you. So again, this is like just like a general thing, like with sci-fi. Like, so this definitely gets reminds me of like warp travel, where like in Warhammer, ships warp travel, at least with the Imperium, ships warp travel, and then individual people, like really powerful psychers, can technically travel through the warp. But doing so just generally is not a good idea because it's really risky because you might get lost in the warp or a demon might snatch your soul or something. So it seems like there's like, I'm not saying like necessarily there's demons running around, but it seems like there might be like a similar idea here where it's like if you have to really know what you're doing, and just web talking just cause or constantly may not be the best plan. It's to probably save. I'm wondering if it's maybe it's because how often they microstep, or it's because they're microstepping that makes it dangerous, which is interesting. But it's not just like a Warhammer thing. Like obviously, even in Star Wars, even in the original trilogy, there's like Han specifically mentions like how dangerous like light speed travel is. He's like, we're not like if you jump without a computer, you could like smash into like a celestial object like a star or something. And then he's like, then where we'd be. So it's just like a common sci-fi trope where it's just like we can't. It's to explain why they don't just like immediately like light speed everywhere. It's because like that kind of ruin the suspense in the story. If you just light speed anywhere, it'd be like, oh well, we don't get to just jump from like A to B. There's no sense of like risk. It's like, well, you can't just. So they balance that out by saying, well, you can't just jump anywhere at any time because if you fuck it up, you're gonna hit something or disappear or something. Gon slipped back into the Anastalian Lamela and dodged the swinging hook of a loaded crane. Kasori was already scrambling over the fence. He cursed fluently and stepped again. It would have been easier with two, one to fence her in and one to pin her down, but one was what he had. He flung himself between Lamelia, sweeping his path around hers, through the indoor passages that crisscrossed the city, over tram traps, across a marketplace where the reek of fresh fish cut through the smog. In the jumbled crowd choked platforms of the monorail exchange, he thought he'd lost her, but no, she was ducking to a train on the highest level. He aimed himself at her and sliced clean and true and short. The momentum he'd built before the cut gave him a split second. So this is true with ships too. We don't momentum carries within the weft. You're not just like floating through the weft. You have to like launch yourself. He built before the cut gave him a split second to try to empty air, enough to realize that what was about to happen before gravity took over. Like jerking awake at night in an empty bed, the panic, the certainty of the fall. His arms flailed. He saw Kasori's wide-eyed face right in front of him, and he wondered who would hunt her down if he was dead. And then he was swinging, not falling, a tearing sensation in his shoulder, a breathtaking impact against the side of the monorail impact. He scrambled desperately with both feet and found himself lifted by this grace of strength rather other than his own. When he laid on his knees, it was Kasori's face in front of his again, no longer open-mouthed with shock, her lips flat and white. Why didn't you kill me? She asked. Also interesting that she expects him to just kill her. So once again, this gives me the vibe of like almost like Warhammer Inquisitor. Like if you see this person, shit's about to go down. Don't be surprised if the fucking commissar or the Inquisitor just shoots you in the head because you looked at him funny or they suspected you something. Killing ordinary people isn't my job, he croaked. When enough air had squeezed back into his lungs, just give me the artifact. Let's pull back, baring teeth. No, not when I'm this close to air it. She produced the artifact from her pocket, blood brown and gnarled, a glow from inside. Pain slowed, gone when he grabbed it. Kasori stumbled back and spoke a word into its twisted orifice. A strange singularity churned out of the artifact and wrapped itself around her. Reality bellowed in response, a register only a Drix could hear. Its own pain so much greater than Gon's own. Get down, he shouted, not waiting to see whether people listened. He threw his arms over his head as Kasori's artifact tore open a passageway to pitch her out between Lamele through space, and the rebound snapped the monorail subways. So once again, it seems like seeing a Drix is like something very common, and it seems like, yeah, you would be worried if a Drix showed up because like weird shit like this is going to happen. It seems like even though people travel through the weft, kind of like Warhammer, like just because people traveling through the weft doesn't mean like people like outside the Drix necessarily have a really good understanding of what it is, or like the layperson's like, oh yeah, this is how the weft works. It's like you might not want to touch that shit unless you're like have to like travel from ship to ship or something. The tracks screamed but held the train's weight. Passengers wailed and shoved, fighting for the uncertain safety of the stairs leading down. Gon knew some had fallen and couldn't make himself look down. Again, that's pretty morbid. These stories have been very like intense for Magic the Gathering stories. Not that Magic the Gathering has never been had killing and stuff. It's just, especially lately. Um, he stood letting the survivors stream past him to study the ragged edges of this new wound in the web. Bad enough she'd gotten away. Worse still, she'd hurt people on her way out. Unbearable to know what she'd taken with her. Only the Drix had ever been able to web talk without the aid of an inventory drive. So it kind of just seems like if you're Drix, only Drix can web talk without an inventory drive. But this artifact had stolen and corrupted those ancient secrets. And now, so is it like a technique? I don't know. And now Kisori Umberland was the one being in the universe who held a way to pierce through space and time. So interesting, a bit of like time travel mention, potentially. And it kind of seems like maybe there might be maybe rules that the Drix have on like web walking and stuff that they might enforce, which might be part of the reason they're working with the Pinnacle. When Gonk tumbled out into Jadnis's office on Peddler Rife, he landed so hard that it knocked the last few notes of web walking right out of his lungs. Jadnis rolled her eyes. You definitely get the vibe this guy's kind of like a dude, like not to be mean, but he's kind of like a doofus. Like he's not maybe not the smoothest, like efficient agent of the Drix that they have, but he's trying his best. She's saying the notes he missed, even as she swiped her stylus to enter a final line of documentation on the crystalline facets of her workstation. So it also seems like Web Walking might have a bit of singing. Even an archivist knows the rights, even if she didn't often have the reason to perform them. Just like old times, she groused, standing up to inspect him. Every time I planned a lunch date, and you and Sothar would stop in, drop in on me, and demanding to be patched up. I don't need patching up. Gon brushed off her attempts to poke at his injured shoulders. It wasn't his dominant arm. He could still manage to use a seam ripper. I need information. Jadnis agreed, but only conditionally. Archive access in exchange for him drinking a pot of garnet leaf tea her mother swore by as a remedy for all physical ills. I don't know if it'll put your shoulder back in its place socket, she said as she installed him at her workstation with a steaming cup at his elbow. Her stylus danced over the workstation's facets, entering a series of access codes. But if you happen to have a case of scale fungus or infectious cloacitis, it should fix you up. He looked up long enough to call after her. My soldier isn't out of its socket, but she'd gone, and the Pinnacle's archives weren't going to search themselves. This Eret that Kisori mentioned, if he could find it, if he could find that, he might find her too. He lifted the stylus and drew a name on the closest face of Jadnis's workstation. His first queries returned too many results to be useful. Across the Pinnacle, there were hundreds of places and millions of beings named Eret. Adding in Kisori and Umberland, and even Instillay didn't meaningfully shrink the mountain of data. Add key, Kale Station. This time only a dozen odd results stumbled out. Birth certificates, immigrant passes, education, work permits, refugee status documents, a death record. Gon read everything, including the lone piece of news coverage attached to the whole affair. When Jadnis returned, complained that her lunch date had ordered hand squids as a main course. Didn't he know that hand squids were practically an intelligent species? That's horrifying. She couldn't see anyone seriously who didn't know that. She shoved her back in her chair so hard that he upset the untouched cup of tea. I recognize that look. Jadnis took a seat opposite him, frivolity immediately forgotten. Tell me. That station, he began. Anger choked him. He spun the workstation, turning the active faucets toward her, letting them speak on his behalf. Jadnis produced a second size from her sleeve and scanned through the story. So I guess he's showing her the story. Basically, like there's like screens and stuff. The Boschek evacuation of the Kale station and that had prioritized the retrieval of expensive specialized mining equipment over the lives of its residents. Humans, Eumidians, adults, and children alike. Jesus Christ. Not all evil in the Amelia originated from an ancient war with beings beyond the Chaos Wall. Across history, people had charted their own banal course into the darkness for their own mundane desires. When she finished, Jadnis's eyes flicked to him. Eret was her sister? After destroying this artifact, Gon said tightly, I'm going to track down Osculus, Kale, and the rest. I'm going to what? Could he destroy an eviler than usual but ordinary human the same way he could destroy a proto-being? There was no justice in the universe except that shaped by hands like this. So are we supposed to take the artifact as being like something related to the Eldrazi, and that in contrast to Kale Station stuff is like mundane problems, or going to what? Jadnis cut through the silence so as deftly as if she wielded a steam of her own. No, you aren't. He opened his mouth to object, and she threw her stylus at his face. No, Gon, your job is dealing with Eldrazi, and mine is dealing with everybody else. Okay, so this kind of confirms what the Drix are after is like Eldrazi shit. You don't have to do everything alone. Even now, she paused the light from the workstation reflected in her black eyes. I know it's not the same as it is for you, Gon, but he was my friend. I know, her friend, and his partner, in hunting and all else. So I guess every two is romantic. I know that I'm sorry. Well, Jadis reached out expectantly. Gon unhooked her stylus from where it had landed in his cowl and set it on her waiting palm. We have that in common too. I think I've already talked about this, but it's interesting, like the contrast between like two like different realities. Obviously you have like different places, like it's almost like chaotic. Like each place is so different. Like this is connected, like this is like these two seem like the same place, but this place is different. And it's like an exploding planet. This is like Kav or something, and then this is like a fiery landscape. And also the way like it's almost like an aerodynamic like image. Like you know how like those images like show cars like how aerodynamic they are as like the air like coming and bouncing off the frame. Like it's almost like this like they're like reacting to like this person being here and being bent out of the way in a way to like, show like this Drix's influence over the weft. But interesting, they're not holding a staff. They could have some sort of seam ripper up here. I don't know if they do, but they could have one. Like they could easily have a smaller blade, or just like the staff could be in a weird position. I don't know. Threads of gold and luminous blue stitched together the stretch of lamella that led Gon away from Pelarive. Beautiful if you like that sort of thing. And Gon did. When he remembered to look, every time he'd left to walk lately, he'd rush from one lamella to the next, tripping through the ritual to beat to the beat of his own double time footsteps. So interesting that the ritual seems to involve a song. So it's like a ritual. It's not like you just jump. I mean, you are jumping pretty quickly, but it's like a song you have to do. And it also makes me wonder if that's part of the reason why maybe micro jumps are dangerous. Maybe something to do with how the ritual is performed or the singing. Also, once again, interesting that all the Drix are like different colors. I wonder if that like implies maybe they all have different methods of like dealing with like these like Eldrazi anomalies. Like maybe the black one's a bit more ruthless, more willing to kill the person if it stops. Also, this one's called timeline color, so they reference time in this story like as like the lady stepping through space and time as opposed to just space. And this character is like called timeline color, so it seems like they might also have to deal with time travel. Like maybe like they're kind of like this time police, like it's kind of like in Star Trek, like they show up like, you've been fucking around with time too much, you can't be doing that. But interesting that they're all different colors. So I'm wondering if like each color maybe represents like different ways of how they handle stuff. And also makes this card make more sense. Nah, never mind. When artifact, maybe they're searching for artifacts. That could be what I was gonna say. Maybe the idea is that it rewards you for looking for artifacts. Anyway, Of course, the hunt always drove him, but he had other reasons to hurry. Here in the West, he felt, or pretended, that Sorothor's love lingered, in a way it couldn't in the quotidian worlds they'd always moved so light over. Is that like the physical world? Occurring every day, so mundane worlds. Unmoored from his origins in time and space, never gone. The weft was there when he missed Sorothor the most. And again, this is definitely giving the vibe of like Force / 40k warp stuff, where it's kind of like, so 40k obviously the warp can get a little weird, and that he can get sent back or forward in time depending on how weird shit gets. With the Force, less time. I mean, there literally is time travel if you, I guess, watch Rebels where someone gets sent into the future, but and someone interfering with the past. But the Force also has like ghosts and stuff, so people can like linger from the past, or you can like commune with people from the past using the Force. But as hours scrolled past in the void, he found a fresh pain to add to the lasting one. Slowly, the hunting ache in his bones and biographical details he gleaned from Kesori's file drew themselves into alignment and pushed him toward the world called Sada. So here's another word we haven't heard of before. Again, it'd be very interesting. I don't expect all these worlds to be covered soon, but it'd be very interesting to see like these worlds. If they ever go back and explore these worlds, maybe see what kind of cards they'd be. Also, could you make a Dominaria planet like land card technically? Because Dominaria is a plane, but it's also like it has planets and stuff. As he found his way through the enfolding lamilliar pleats, he refined his approach. He'd rather avoid startling her into another case. into another chase. Yes, his shoulder was in its socket, but it was not resting particularly comfortably there. Measured twice, cut once. With his best judgment, he angled a seam ripper and sliced through it into an ugly, unfurnished one-room apartment. Kasori stood at the entryway, one hand on the knob, one foot inside. Her eyes widened, and she drew himself up. So Drick's not fun to deal with because they seem like they can just kind of follow you literally everywhere, as long as they know what they're doing. Ready to chase if needed, but at least to look as if he were up to the task. But she didn't bolt, only leaned against the jam. She looked different, not older, but perhaps lessened. Her use of the artifact had taken something from her she couldn't replenish. It's a lifespan, probably. Is this before the monorail for you? She asked weirdly, or after? You'd think I could keep track. I've only ever managed to jump a few weeks. Oh, so here's a time travel. So time travel is obviously another sci-fi trope. It's very interesting seeing it explored this way as like, because we see like characters like, because usually how Magic handles it is that the Magic was a little bit more liberal to time travel in the past, but they definitely stopped. They've definitely been more strict about it just because it raises a bunch of like continuity questions about like, if you change something on Tarkir, does that affect other planes, et cetera, et cetera. So definitely like more strict about it. Like Teferi can't just jump into the past anymore or anything. I'm not sure if he ever could, but so it's interesting to see like basically like this artifact, the time travel wearing on someone's psyche. Like it's not just like, oh, I'm time traveling back in time. It's like it might have some adverse psychological effect. After he shuffled sideways, not toward her, and made sure to leave a long stretch of stained tiles between them. He wondered how this place had looked when a family had lived here, whether Kasori saw it differently than he did. Mostly what she saw was a seam ripper. Her eyes carefully tracked its blue arc. His earlier hesitation had pierced his resolve. Now he found pity weighing itself into the gap left behind. How did you get your hands on that thing? No one ever notices the elevator attendants who handle the luggage. We're basically part of the machinery. I mean, that's a bit like... I don't think this place is dystopian, but it's like a bit dystopian. It's like you're almost like a cog in the machine, like no one pays attention to you. Like the individual doesn't matter as much. Her hand twitched as if she wanted the reassurance of reaching for her pocket. Instead, she slipped inside and closed the door. Whatever she intended, it wasn't escape. It called for me as if it knew I needed it. More like it knew it needed her, or rather, its architects had built it in such a contingency in case they had lost control of it. So I'm wondering if this is like Eldrazi, or because we do have the other race of like uber powerful beings that have like the that we've seen in one of the other side stories that they built like basically a really powerful like reality warping internet. Side story, please. The VAR. I wonder, is this VAR related, or is it the VAR a virtual world so distinct from this one that only chooses us remain in reality? The VAR who ran from the Eldrazi, the VAR fled the virtual world. So we know the VAR can also warp reality, and we know the VAR probably got killed by the Eldrazi, who can all because Eldrazi can also warp reality. So, what means you're Eldrazi? That makes sense because, yeah, I guess they aren't like, I guess because generally, specifically, most Eldrazi are just extensions of one of the Titans, as opposed to like their own like full-on sentient thing. So that makes sense. More like it knew it needed her, but in case they lost control of it. Any unwitting patsy, anyone wounded and wanting enough to answer a temptation, anyone who would use the artifact without understanding its real purpose. Again, definitely giving like corrupted chaos vibes, like appealing to your desires, or like almost like a dark side of the force, or like chaotic warp entity where it's just like appealing to your desires or insecurities, stuff like that. People died because of what you did on Andestile, he said. She winced and he pressed harder. Words could cut too. Even more have been hurt. I think you know you can't safely use that thing. I don't believe any human could. Her face tense, but you could, Drix? Yes. This feels like a Chad meme. It shows me, not you. Deliberately, she withdrew it from her pocket uniform. Its appearance hadn't changed, but the sight of it wrenched Khan's stomach even more viciously. Whatever life or vitality it had drawn from Kasori, it had taken into itself and poisoned. You want to heir to stay dead, but she deserves better. From the world, from me. She swept her arm, gesturing to the dingy, unoccupied apartment. This is where she is. I took her away, but I can bring her back here. It'll work this time. Her eyes darted to the artifact, and she lifted it to her mouth. Once again, we have another recurring. And the main story is definitely in the main story is definitely this theme of like coping with loss or losing someone. And here we see this kind of appear again in the side story. Kasori, don't. It's okay, she said. Then she laughed as if earnestly believing it was. I know what to do. With the whistle, Gon spun his Seam Ripper, a single microstep, the smallest he'd ever taken, 3 meters across the apartment, and he could try to wrestle the artifact out of her hands. The microstep saved his life. When he popped back into the apartment a split second later, it was as if a bomb had gone off. Kasori had blown a hole through the external wall, and a wavering tear in the weft shimmered through the morning hazy air of the city. Outside, above, and all around, people cried out in terror, and the apartment building added its steel girder shrieking to the chorus. An echo rang through Gon's nerves. His teeth ached as much as he moved closer, kicking the artifact from Kasori's limp fingers. Whatever had already taken from her, it had finished its work. She lay like a child like a broken toy. Only human hubris would have dared to imagine himself immune to a device like this. But then again, Gon remonstrated himself. Humans hardly had a monopoly on bad judgment. I mean, at least he's not doing like this, like that, like, oh, unlike us who are perfect and never fuck up. And I think he's also beating himself up because like he's saying, I should just cut her down. I let the bomb go off. A brief hailstorm of plaster chips gave him a moment's warning. He looked up in time to see the ceiling above him shear in half. He dove forward, slow, always too slow, and landed pinned in the unfriendly embrace of broken concrete shards. So much death, so much destruction, and for what? His good arm stretched out in front of him, free but useless, except to claw at the ugly floor. Beneath him, his Seam Ripper lay trapped. He couldn't free it without cutting through himself. He made himself breathe, a shallow but significant grasp, and not to go on. With his free hand, he strained as far as he could, scraping his shoulder against the crushing weight. Instead, his fingers found the artifact. His hand jerked as if to throw the thing as far as he could, but he forced himself to disobey the impulse, to close his fist around it tightly. Kasori had used an invocation to activate it before, but that didn't matter. Drix knew their own ways to the weft. He didn't call out the first notes of the ritual so much as groan them, but it was enough to snag the wounded in the weft and draw it toward himself. If Sorothir were there, he could have told Gon this was a truly terrible idea, but Sorothir was not there. So also interesting that he points out that like humans aren't the only ones with a monopoly on bad ideas, and he's immediately like, this is a bad idea. And Gon was so tired of death. Sorothir is in the line of duty. Kasori is in pursuit of the impossible. Eret's too early and so unnecessary. It's interesting that he like admits Eret, even though I think it was Eret the one was trying to save. Yeah, Eret was so it's interesting. He's not like heartless. It could have been very easy to have like an almost like heartless Inquisitor type, like, you know, cut down, ask questions later. Humans are so stupid and fragile, and they do stupid shit. And if everyone just listened to us, everything would be great. But it's interesting how empathetic Gon actually is to the lives of like just people in general, and not just like Drix. Eret's too early and so necessary. He ripped the weapon wide open and forced himself through. The good news, this was exactly the right place to use the artifact, even with the chaos-infected technology to orient him. Gon struggled to incorporate this new dimension in the weft into his understanding, but it tugged him toward the past. Here, the fabric of reality was so much thinner, so rarefied. On the lower planes, the artifact had demanded a huge burst of energy to force its way through here, which was, in a sense, everywhere. It took far less power to twist a passageway between layers, between times. A human like Kasori couldn't walk between worlds unassisted. Never had a chance. So yeah, so basically he's already in the weft, and once you're already in the weft, it works better than if you're just trying to jump from the physical world. The bad news, this was exactly the right place to use the artifact. In Gon's hand, it pulsed, drawing on this life that sustained him as it reached for a place beyond reality that should never be touched. A boiling chaos, a terrible eye that struggled to open into an era long past. So once again, this definitely gives like Warhammer Chaos kind of like weird shits happen. Also, I guess when the bad news being this was the right place is like the artifact when the conditions you need to go off. Gon, a Weft Hunter, so it's kind of like a bit of play. It's like, oh, this is the perfect place to use it to get out of the situation, but also the perfect place for the artifact to go off. Gon, a Weft Hunter, a Drix, refused to be the vessel of their return. His people had always had ways to exert their will on the Weft with what breath he had. He filled his mouth with words of those old rites, sheltering behind ritual. He resisted the artifact's demand. He had space to scrabble for whatever control he could steal. So this is also again interesting because he mentioned specifically being like possessed. Like it's like saying it's trying to crawl into his body, which again gives like demon chaos possession. Not much control, but enough to force close that sickening window to a best forgotten past. Because also that past might be the Eldrazi. Because he was a Weft Hunter, a Drux, and a stubborn, reckless fool who should have known better, and he didn't intend to meet his match in a plaything for Eldrazi cultists. Ooh, so this is the first time I've heard about Eldrazi cultists. So it kind of seems like it's not just the Eldrazi. Because I was wondering where like some of these Eldrazi spawn were coming from, and it would make sense if somebody was like worshiping them and making them. And this isn't the first time we've seen Eldrazi worship. On Zendikar, people mistook the Eldrazi for gods. I mean, over time they didn't realize it was the Eldrazi. They kind of just became like more generic gods. But then later, the Eldrazi emerged, and people were like, "Oh shit!" So, and it's also like, also obviously brings like into mind, like for example, like Chaos Cultists from like Warhammer, like worshiping like this powerful like reality warping entity that maybe you probably shouldn't be worshiping, and that will probably also corrupt you. So I mean, it's pretty interesting hearing about Eldrazi cultists, because I think it's the first time we've heard about that. I don't know if we have any Eldrazi cultist cards, but it'd be interesting to see that. One last gamble, and one he meant to win. With his remaining strength, he wrenched the artifact's focus sideways toward a more recent past, the prologue to this unorthodox hunt. To Sada, still within reach. 5 years back, 10 dozens of strangers blinking in and out of existence in the same sad little apartment. He stretched back further with numbing fingers with dimming vision, while the artifact's pull hammered at his temples. Even further, and he could make out a half-familiar shape, a human with a smaller shadow in her orbit. Kasori and Eret, young and hungry and happy. He should have warned them or dragged them through to a kinder corner of his own time. A feverish vision of them drinking tea in Jadnis's office sprang to mind, wringing a laugh out of him. Their laughter didn't last. Though he strained to breach that last stretch of time, depressed into a stretch of history that had already happened, the distance was too great. It would devour more life than he had left to offer, and he had enough of that left these days. An idea asserted itself, a slippery little idea, greasy, refusing to let him get a grip on it. Yes, Kasori and Eret must stay stranded in their youth. Too far, too bad, very sad. But he knew someone, didn't he, who lay buried in a past much closer to hand. He caught himself leaning toward that day, that flight, that proto-being, that blood and ichor. How could I blame a human for feeling the trials of temptation when I almost broke without a second thought? At least self-aware. Oh, they have animation in the Magic Arena for the story if you look in your inbox. I did see that. I think I talked about it in the last stream. You probably missed it. I thought it was I thought it was cute because it reminded me of the very old. There might be a new animation you're referring to, but the one I saw reminded me like it was very old like Magic like Innistrad trailers. Like it was obviously more refined, but it reminded me a lot of I'm not gonna watch the whole thing again because I watched it last time, but it reminded me of like these old like trailers where it's just like more like the card. Well, that looks really rough. Obviously not quite as rough, but it reminds me of these edited card arts. Like it reminds me of those trailers. So I thought it was very cute. I was trying to look for it on YouTube, but I couldn't find it. So I hope they put it up soon, because it kind of suck if that was only you only watched it in Arena. If you didn't record it, it's gone. But he didn't break, even though everything in him longed to. It would be too far to reach back, not if he still wanted to fix his mistakes, to prevent all the pain riding in the wake of Kasori's quest and his own failures, to save lives, plural. Not just one, even that one. Ruthlessness made the hunter, and sometimes ruthlessness demanded to be turned inward. I'm sorry, he said to himself, and to whatever love was left to listen. Weft walking lay beyond his strength now. He Weft crawled, repeating the rites for their comforting familiarity as much as for the safety they offered. When he reached Andinstille, he pressed himself up against the filmy version of the city's past and tumbled through time that broke like rotten wood. So Andinstille is the city. In the elevator loading bay, Kasori glasped jumped back. Not a young woman, but not ravaged yet by the demands of the artifact she already held in her hand. Weeks ago, before her days had begun to loop back in on themselves. She was stuck in a time loop. I guess that might have been why she was like being she was driven a little, her mind was being put under pressure. Maybe she might have been stuck in some sort of time loop. Of her own making, obviously, because I think she was trying to, but she wasn't getting far enough. Before her days had begun to loop back in themselves. What the? Are you okay, mister? Gon rolled onto his side. What are you planning? What you're planning, he said. It's not worth it. He held up his version of the artifact, and she reached for it instinctively, with the hand already holding her own. Twin copies tersected fold together, with Trick's fingers and human ones intertwined, fighting for control. Look, said Gon, too tired to fight and ready to play dirty. He slid his other hand into his robe and took out a tab etched with a name and contact key, dropping it to his feet. You don't have to go alone, but Eret wouldn't want you to do this. Kasora recoiled. How do you know that name? So interesting that the like the artifacts are combined, because this is like I guess like also like a trope. It's like two things of the same object can exist in the same place. Usually they think the trope is done because it's like a antimatter copy or something, but this is like a time paradox, it seems. She'd figured it out, or she wouldn't. The moment she let go of the artifact, Khan balled up the rights. The Lamala crumpled around him like dirt falling into an open grave. He lost track of but there's a new animation. I'll check it out after I finish this. But he'll also check how long it took to claw his way back out to his own present, where he potted the weft wound until he fell through. A dizzying sight greeted him, a double vision of the apartment's destruction, overlaid on ugly but intact on the ugly but attacked original wear, and when he'd first arrived, a Steam Reaper laid beneath concrete shambles. He snatched it up even as the world resolved into a single truth, a truth that involved Gon laying on his back on scummy tiles, now liberally streaked with his own gray-green ichor, so his blood. Although it's interesting to see that, like, I guess they're being very, like, they're trying to avoid having, like, a bunch of, like, timelines to keep track of by just saying it all merges into one timeline. Like, the universe, like, the plane kind of corrects itself. Worst things could be true. Worst things had been true, still were, nothing to be done about that. Maybe one thing. With a whistle that was more spittle than air, Gon parted a small streakle cut with a Steam Ripper. The artifact vibrated in his hand when he slid it halfway into the opening. He made his choice, and its call didn't reach him anymore. Not in the unprotected places it dug into the first time. He closed his eyes and sang the ritual through to its ending. The seam sealed. Half of the artifact dropped to the floor with a clatter of finality. Possibilities closed, stories ended. Then it was enough just to breathe. A stretch of scar tissue had gnawed itself into the weft. The outline of space-time wound left by the artifact. It hurt, but it held. And when the ringing in Gon's ears had faded, he heard voices all around. People preparing dinner, children happily shrieking up and down the hallway. He lifted his communicator to his mouth, letting his arm rest on his chest before threading a line through. How's the Kale investigation going? He asked, tasting ichor in the back of his throat, and waited. "Oh, to you too," said Jadis chattingly. "You know, these things take more time than cleaning up Eldrazi messes. Speaking of which, when you're done chasing down this artifact, Kasori has..." He sat up so fast his temples dropped. "Kasori, my assistant, the one who brought me the Kale lead in the first place. I know you're bad with human names, but this is embarrassing." She sighed a sigh that rattled through the weft. "Kasori has something for you. There's a proto being emerging, a cav called Tunuk." Oh shit, Tunuk from the main story? Since cav aren't part of the pinnacle, this falls outside the reach of my legal recourse. Gon laughed wetly, which started a response laugh out of Jadis in turn. When he climbed to his feet, he left his wariness along with ichor on the floor. It'll catch up to him later, he knew, and charge interest to boot. Most likely when he was about to do something reckless. I've been told by a reputable source that dealing with Eldrazi is my job. So yes, I'm on it. He lifted his Steam Ripper, one-handed, and sang out a note to lead him through. But keep an ear open. Odds are good I still need some help along the way. So it sounds like Tunuk is being corrupted by some Eldrazi. But I'll have to keep reading the main story to find out. I'm gonna transition to MTG over now and see if there's a new animation. I would like to talk more about the art, but there's haven't been much art as these stories as expected. But I'll probably just, after the set's released, maybe I'll just sit down and go through the arts like in Wooburg order or something. Initializing scene. I think I saw it. Hold on. I think I saw it because I don't see any new things. Maybe, hold on. I don't want to close you, but I do want to search. If I can find it, that'd be great. I haven't seen it like officially posted. I know I saw it. It definitely exists. You can go back and watch the VOD for like the last stream. It's like real. Maybe I have to go back to watch the last VOD of the last stream. Is it maybe here? Maybe it's in the beginning or something as like an opener. I think we're just gonna have to go back to the VOD. That's the only way I can prove that exists. If this becomes lost media, I'm gonna be very sad. It's like the lost media, the MTG animation, MTGA. where? Oh, here it is. I think this is where I look at it. So if anyone's wondering what's being talked about in chat by Silas Jones. Also, why do I hear myself? Where am I? Did I open my live stream or something? Am I mad? Because that was paused 100%. Okay, it's around here. I'll just play one game of MTG and then wrap it up here just because I have to make dinner tonight, I think. YouTube? Hello? Like, you can see it exists. YouTube, please. I don't know what is going on with that. Whenever I see this specific layout, I feel like YouTube doesn't work. Why is it working better? Unfortunately, I'm talking over it. I kind of wish I was quiet because if I had known that it wouldn't be on the YouTube, I probably would have been quiet over it. I wonder. I wonder if I can watch it again because I can't really hear it that well in the VOD. Oh, here we go. So I do really like the trailers because it gives me the vibe of like really old Magic, like those really old Magic trailers, like the maybe I'll pick something else besides the Innistrad trailer to show because we already saw that. Like because like these days Magic trailers are like they have like models, like actual models and stuff. But like and the like you can definitely tell with the older trailers. Like I've watched them. Like the older trailers, it's just more like card art is being edited and moved, like puppeted. So the trailer reminds me of like stuff like this.
This is my city.
So you can see obviously it's not 3D, but instead it's like card art.
I've come to find a refuge from this life.
There might be more 3D incorporated. Like I don't know about the birds and stuff. But...
activities amongst the guilds of Ravnica has drawn my attention. The Azorius magistrates behave with impunity, imposing ever greater dictates upon the citizenry, while the Bacchanal of Rakdos has taken on an added fervor, giving me pause in light of other guild activities, such as those of the quietly powerful Selesnians, preparing themselves for something, and to what end? And the Golgari, providers of questionable sustenance. Their rot lies under the surface, for now. As for the Izzet, the mad thinkers, Ravnica's frenzied engineers, their activities have intensified, and more guilds remain. I sense another power at work, a potent mind I cannot identify. What force is at work here? And what does it mean?
So yeah, definitely think the style's like those older trailers, like some of the older Magic trailers, where it's like more like card art. I hope they post it on the YouTube channel. But anyway, I'm gonna play probably like one best of 3 of Rakdos, and I'll probably hop off. So that's their story for today. I think that was the last side story we need to read. Interesting how it converges with the main story, because the other ones seem kind of like just separate, like they're doing their own thing. So I'm curious about that, about Sanok. I'm if I come back, because it ain't looking good. It's also interesting that it was like to refer to it as Eldrazi stuff, but it's like an artifact. So it was like, did someone make that? Did the Eldrazi make that artifact, or was it like a cultist worshiping the Eldrazi and it got like touched by the Eldrazi or something, so it became like weird warp shit? Anyway, I'm just gonna play this first because I just want to get in damage. Looks like they're at least playing blue green. Could be playing something else. Malevolent Rumble. So we're hoping we draw like a play with fire, just to kill it immediately. So that we can swing in safely. We do not, but we can cast Suspiria's Teachings to activate Prowess. And then we'll swing with the monster Suspiria actually, just because it already has prowess, but prowess can stack, so you can have two prowesses, which is gonna be very scary later if we can cast a bunch of spells. We might be in a bit of trouble here. We'll cast Haste. I think we just want to go in because ideally they block with some of those, so they don't cast a 7-mana spell next turn or something, because they have enough to cast a 7-mana spell. And I think once they hit 7 or 8, we're probably dead because they probably just cast a Titan or something. I would like to see them like if they want to put a voiceover like version of that on YouTube. I would love to see that. Like in the spirit like the old magic trailers. Surveil, don't fail me now. It failed me. Sewing microspawn. And it is interesting to see Eldrazi back, because I guess one of the things that's always been about the Eldrazi, like it felt kind of hard to bring him back outside because you had the Titans just kind of fucking shit up. So I'm curious. I'm curious if it's just like remnants of like Eldrazi corruption, like the Titans passed through and these are just people still worshiping the Eldrazi and spreading its corruption, or if it's like a new Titan or just something else. Maybe not a Titan per se, but something else that can just spread corruption like that. We're in a bit of trouble. You think if I just like swing with like a bunch of like with like no hesitation, they'll just assume I have a bolt in my hand and let me hit at least one, so I can activate Lap the Stage. One thing a lot of people don't appreciate or don't do enough potentially is bluff. If you just do stuff with enough confidence and Magic the Gathering, sometimes you can just get away with shit. So people are like, oh, no way you would just swing into that with no plan. And then the trick is that you don't just bluff though. You do actually want to be able to back up what you have half the time. Of the night, sure. We're pretty close to killing them, so Scry. Or Surveil, my bad. I'm not a real Magic Gathering fan. We can probably just kill them by just once they cast a Titan or something. I think we just do this like 5 times. I think we can probably win this because it does gain life. Never mind. It's kind of not good. I was kind of planning on. All I can hope for is that this procs, and then we get start flying. I don't think we have enough And our different types in our graveyard. No, I need different types in my graveyard. Fuck. And our one artifact is like not in our hand. I did not mean to leave that there. We'll throw this away. I think we probably had a loss. I think that was we needed to win that turn. Okay, well I probably maybe shouldn't concede here because it might still be winnable depending on what we draw next turn. I'm gonna concede here because I feel like we're just being outpaced in every metric. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna want more creature removal. So I'm gonna put Searing Blood because that just deals damage and kills a creature. Molten Collapse, Pyroclasm. We could maybe just Skullcrack. The Skullcrack can hit Planeswalkers too. Might not be a good idea cutting so many 1-mana spells in my deck, but great. We mulligan that. We'll take this. This is better. I kind of want to keep the Sunbite Cannon because of the card draw, but in case. But I think we should realistically drop it just so we can have better mana fixing. And then we'll just cast Dragon's Rage Channeler first, just because if they play something that puts like those little Jelly tokens again, we can at least swing or something. Okay, and now we probably should just swing and then skewer the critics, but I think I want to play Corey Steelcutter because that opens us up for next turn. Because next turn we can potentially activate Steelcutter and skewer the critics, which is feels like a lot more devastating for the opponent. Like they have to catch up on that. Mindstone. This is actually pretty good because we can Spirit's Teaching, Surveil. I'm not sure we want that. Fair enough. Dreadhorde Arcanist. Spirit's Teaching. Prowess. Molten Collapse. Sure. This feels like a lot easier to win because they don't have anything on board. Because this deck just wants to win fast. We just want to burn through their health as quickly as possible. Sowing Myco Spawn. We should. I think we're probably still fine. I'm not sure they can. I'm not sure they're ramping fast enough. Because we can just kill that, right? We just kill that. Maybe I don't think we cast Steer the Critics here. I think what we do is we swing with Swift Spear and make sure to cast Steer the Critics next turn, maybe. Browse and Haste. We're pretty far ahead. Even though we have less mana, we're just kind of like stomping their face in. Mana value 1 or less. I'm going to decline because I might as well save that for something we can actually hit. And now, if we're lucky, we can kind of just double skewer the critics that or something. No way to ring a board wipe, right? Like, there's no colorless board wipes, right? Okay. I think we got it. I think they only have 2 mana up now. So I don't think they have anything that could realistically kill this many creatures at once. I don't know if they got it's like a green, a blue, or a green that could kill. Yeah. Ugin's Finding. Is that a blue Ugin card? Anyway. Um, do we put in Disruptor Flute though? That's what I'm wondering. I'm not sure that's worth it. I think we just keep doing what we've been doing and we just try to win fast and eat ass. It's fair enough hand. We should have a bit of black mana, but it's not like we have any black cards, so it shouldn't be a problem. I'm trying to play a mountain and then Monastery Swift Spirit to swing in because we clearly just want to win as fast as possible because trying to play the long game is just going to end up with an Ugin or an Eldrazi Titan exiling our library or some shit. So you're getting massacred or something. What's going on? 10-6. Mountain, Monastery Swift Spear. Paying for one, and then next turn we can just cast some big canyon, maybe a Swift Spear teaching, and then a Monastery Swift Spear. I mean, maybe I should have put in a flute because with the flute I can see what they're playing. I can literally just go like, oh, that's Ugin, Eye of the Storm. I declare Ugin. But I'm hoping we can just kill him fast enough that it doesn't matter. What I might do is I might cast Monastery Swift Spirit, and then I'll cast Swift Teaching, and then try to cast Dreadhorde Arcanist at haste speed. Draw a card. Not what we're looking for. We wanted to land there, but it's all right. Bounce, maybe. Okay, we do have a burst lightning for that, so we should be fine. Because partially what I'm worried about is they just have a bunch of these and they just cast something big off that. But we can just do this. We can just cast Dreadhorde Arcanist with his trample anyway. Kill that. Then we can cast it again with Dreadhorde Arcanist. And since everything has prowess right now, we can proc prowess again. And if they play something else, we might just be forced to use like Pyroclasm or something. Because everything lives from Pyroclasm on my side of the board just because everything goes up by +1. So unless they have a damage bow or something. Which they don't because they're in green. And they need a creature for that in green. Devour Destiny. So this adds 2, 3, 4, 5. They're at 5 mana. They need 7 for that. Sold for I think we're good because I think we just if they only have one creature on the board. Okay, what an asshole. If they only have one creature on the board, we just swing and then if we ping for even one, we just cast like Secure the Critics. Also prowess activation. So yeah. Oh, so with that, Diamond 3. All you gotta do is look up a deck online. It's just that easy. See, okay, but again, like, I'm not sure if I've ever been saved late game by like being able to kick like by being able to kick her a burst lightning. So I'm wondering. I'm still thinking about just cutting it out completely just for play with fires. The play with fire just seems more flexible, and it seems like we want to go faster anyway. You know what? We'll kind of the burst with lightning. We'll put another play with fire. But anyway, I'm probably gonna stop there for tonight. I know it wasn't long, but I gotta make sure I make dinner and take care of my dogs and stuff. So I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for stopping by, even if it wasn't for very long or for a few minutes. maybe one day if I get enough people watching, I'll try to stream longer.